His yearning turned into heavy depression.
That was my scariest time. That was when I guess my faith did waver a little bit because Don wasn't trying. And that's so unlike him. He's so determined. And he had quit.
It was a dark period, a very, very dark period. Two things really seemed to overwhelm me. A sense of what I saw and lost, and a sense of what I might ever do that mattered.
It was just too much for him. And I'd fuss at him, I'd cajole, I'd plead, I'd whatever. And he didn't want it. He would just literally turn his head. He wouldn't talk to me. And that was rough. That was very hard.
And people were nice, and they were thoughtful, but no one would ever make the statement, you're going to be fine, you're going to walk again.
For a year and a half, Don kept his heavenly experience to himself.
I didn't want to share it. I felt like it was a sacred secret.
My advice to him was, you're going to have to be comfortable with sharing this experience. I would suggest you pick a couple people that you know, that you trust.
Reluctantly, Don trusted in David Gentiles, his best friend for over 30 years.
I guess he was just kind of seeing if I would laugh at him or say he was crazy or whatever.
A small part of it probably had to do with the fact that I felt if I shared it, people would think that I just had lost it.
Don slowly revealed more details of what he witnessed during the 90 minutes his body lay lifeless.
I heard angels more than saw them. And what I could hear was the beating of their wings. And so it was just an awesome presence of the angels, and they're everywhere. In heaven, you can hear thousands of glorious songs. You hear them all at the same time, and there is no chaos.
Frankly, to have someone I knew sitting across from me saying, well, and I saw this, and it looked this color, and this was the sound, it was a little freaky.
Don cannot forget the moment he reached Heaven's Gate.
There was a parting of the crowd and revealing, the street, and so I began to move forward. And it was becoming obvious that it's time for me now, having been welcomed, to enter. I'm not sure we walked. I know that sounds very strange. Let's just say we moved.
They moved toward the gate on what Don says appeared to be a street of gold.
The closer you get to the gate, the brighter it gets, and inside the gate is an utter brilliance. I was in the presence of God, and I would never have to suffer pain again. I would never have to be weary again. I would never have to worry again.
But as Don crossed the threshold, he paused.
That pause was my moment to return. The culmination of all those prayers on earth was realized at that moment, as God, in his infinite wisdom, decided it was not my time and sent me back.
Until Don shared his experience, Eva was hurt that Don wished he had not survived the accident.
I was not real happy with him. And so when when I heard about the heaven experience, it was like, oh, now I get it. Because if you've been there, why would you want to be back here?
Did Don really visit heaven, or was it just a figment of his imagination?
I deal with critics of the near-death experience, with skeptics about the phenomenon. I have to deal with my own skepticism about it as well, because I don't know what causes these experiences.
Dr. Bruce Grayson, a psychiatrist with the University of Virginia, has studied near-death phenomena for over 30 years.
Doctors and nurses are coming to be more and more impressed with the fact that these things are really happening to their patients and really have an important impact on their patients' lives and on their health care.
Important events with no real medical explanation. But Grayson says he cannot deny the millions who say they've had encounters with the other side.
In the near-death experience, people's minds separating from body, people communicating with what appear to be deceased loved ones, are all suggestive of something surviving after death.
Don Piper believes it's more than just a suggestion.
My experience in heaven was the most real experience of my existence.
I had an eyewitness account from someone who was very credible to me and trustworthy, and so there was a legitimacy
I know he's not prone to flights of fancy. He's a very logical, think-it-through person, has always been that way. So when he talks about things that he experienced in heaven, I know that they're real.
As real as heaven is to Don, others who have died and returned describe another place, one that is dark and dreadful.
And they'll say there were screams, there were flames, and there was sulfur. It was an agonizing, horrifying, stupefying place, and it's really, you could see it on their face. And then inevitably they will say, the reason I'm telling you this is because I want you, when you share, to let people know hell is real too.
People who come back from a near-death experience give differing descriptions of what they went through.
I literally felt myself kind of floating, and I looked and I saw myself on the bed.
Encountering a being of light.
And then you're passing very, very fast through a tunnel. I felt incredible love.
Seeing deceased relatives.
I saw my great-grandmother.
And the light gets brighter and brighter.
Apparently unearthly realm of existence.
Instantly, I was out of my body and looking at Earth.
I have never felt more loved, and don't ever hope to.
People will say their sense of time has changed dramatically. Often they will say time ceased to exist in the near-death experience.
Their experiences may differ, but they never forget.
I've talked to people many decades after a near-death experience, and they say invariably that it's like it happened yesterday.
Some wish their memories weren't so vivid.
It was like being in a nightmare and trying to scream. And as hard as you tried to scream, you couldn't get the word, you couldn't get the sound out. And it wasn't a nightmare. It was reality. It was my reality. And I can only say that it was hell.
Several years ago, Sharon Maddox underwent surgery. Under anesthesia, she became aware of herself slipping away to a dark, black place.
The darkness was thick. It was a total enveloping darkness. It was so dark you wouldn't have been able to see the hand in front of your face, is the way I describe it. I experienced gut-wrenching, excruciating pain. It was so unbearable. I don't even have the words to describe how it felt.
According to Dr. Bruce Grayson, a small percentage of people like Sharon do have negative near-death encounters.
Some of these unpleasant experiences are simply a sense of being in a black void with no sense of sight, sound, touch, just being alone for eternity, which can be a terrifying experience.
Near-death experiences may vary from person to person, but Dr. Grayson says one phenomena remains constant.
What I do know is that they are profoundly transformative experiences.
And it's the transformation in a person's attitude, goals, and even personality that fascinates this psychiatrist.
We spend a lot of time in trying to help people make fairly small changes, and here, in the blink of an eye, something happens that totally transforms a person's personality. There's a tremendous power there that if we could understand it, we could have some great tools for how to help people.
There's also an urgency about life and death. You know, when you've had a big truck hit you when you're only 38 years old and your life ends, and then you've been given it back, but it's a different life, you're mindful of the fact that we're very fragile.
Spending time with his family is more of a priority now.
What do you think about that? Yeah. What do you think about that?
He was always a good family man, but I think he takes more time and more pleasure out of enjoying his family and making sure that we really do spend time together.
You know what? It made me feel right at home, because I was home. Heaven is home.
Today, Don travels worldwide to share his story with an eager audience.
I had to find a way to take the mess that I had found myself in and turn it into a message.
If God can resuscitate a dead guy in a red car, he can give you a better life now and a better life in the world to come. Are you ready for that?
How much lingering pain do you still have today?
Quite a bit.
Still in almost constant pain, Don walks with difficulty, and his left arm doesn't turn normally. But more than anything, he yearns for something more.
I have had enormous privileges and joys here in life since I returned. Watched all three of my children graduate from college. I have had the privilege of walking my daughter down the aisle, but I'd rather be there. If you hear in an hour or two, word reaches you here at the church that I've been in a terrible accident and I'm not expected to live, leave me alone. Leave me alone.